Howdy, y'all. It is Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. How are you doing? Today, we are into the most beautiful thing you can be in, and that is studying out Necrons in Warhammer 40k. This game has just been amazing to me. Just so much fun. 10th edition is fantastically interesting. I think there's some things that we'll go over in a battle report shortly that obviously need to change or get updated a bit, but overall, where we're at is a really interestingly fun spot. What I wanted to talk today is Necron Warriors. How are they, and what do they need, or what do you use them with? Okay, let's go through it all. We've got the data sheets pulled up. We're gonna see if we can zoom in just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. So Necron Warriors are, ironically, when you first got the preview. When we first got the preview for these guys, they were pretty lame. Like, they were terrible. Because if you'll notice here, they're all the stuff up here other than leadership is the same. The OC is kind of different now anyway, but basically ends up being that they're still really good at that. But when you get down into the Gauss Flares and the Reapers, they can't ever go higher than those inches in range because we don't have Mephrit anymore. And if you'll notice, the ballistic skill went up to 4 up instead of a 3 up. And we lost our AP. So pretty clearly, they've gotten worse. We do have lethal hits, so 6 is auto wound, which was good, but we've definitely gotten worse on our stats in the AP. The AP is a big hit. It's a big hit. And so when we were looking at these things, we're like, man, these are not good. We've got some trouble here. All right. So ironically, though, once everything got revealed, they were in fact not in a bad spot. In fact, they were probably in the best spot that they've been, which is crazy considering. I don't know if they're necessarily as deadly, but they are what you'd hope for Necron Warriors. Survivable out the wazoo. Like, they just keep going. And their numbers Legion really helps with that, because each time this unit's reanimation protocols activate, it reanimates D6 wounds instead of D3. So they can go 1 through 6 instead of 1 through 3. Unless it's in range of an objective marker, in which case it's D3 plus 3. So right off the bat, they're guaranteed to heal 4 minimum and up to 6 if they're within an objective marker. Ridiculously good. So let's go through the combos and the things that really make them stand out as fantastic and really put them in a place of, okay, Necron Warriors are really solid still. So first off, reanimation protocols, your command phase at the very end, you get to activate these and you get to roll for them, and you get to heal back that many, or you heal that many wounds, or you bring back a model instead if you've got everything at full wounds. So really cool. It works. It didn't seem very strong at first, but because of all the different ways to heal, as long as with our stratagems, very, very good. So our command protocol is when a Necron's character model is leading the unit, they get a +1 to their hit roll. So they go up to a 3 up at least. They could have gotten to a 2 up last edition though. The stratagems overall, interesting because like Eternal Guardian gets their characters back for them. They can actually have an AP of -1 on their melee and +1 on their strength of their melee weapons. So they can actually be really good from Hungry Void in melee. At least better, I should say. This Conquering Tyrant, rerolling wound rolls. So they auto hit on 6s, but then you could reroll the wound rolls if you needed to. Really good stuff too. It's our stratagems really make them also shine as well. Necron's unit that had 1 or more of its models destroyed, then you can activate the reanimation protocols instead. And so it's D3 wounds, but instead it would be D6 +1 if you have a character leading it, or if they're near an objective, D3 +3 +1. Whew, that's a lot, right? Sudden Storm. They could get Assault, which actually could be really useful for them, and you could reroll the advanced rolls. Very nice. And then Vengeful Stars is fantastic. So if you lose a model in shooting phase, they get to go ahead and shoot back as if it were your shooting phase as well. And if they have a Necron's character leading, ignores cover. I used that in our last game to devastating effect against Custodes, and it was shocking for all of us that were me and my opponent. We were both like, oh, that actually worked. The enhancements are interesting. These enhancements can go on non-epic hero characters, okay? Veil of Darkness allows you to teleport around the board. It's a little bit more limited, and you have to do it at the end of your opponent's turn, which is kind of weird, but okay. Still really useful because it gets them across the board. Hypermaterial Ablator for the Necron model only. The bear's leading unit, models in that unit have a stealth ability, and in addition, each time a ranged attack targets the bear's unit, if the attack is not within 12 inches, models in that unit have the benefit of cover. So you always get benefit of cover outside of 12 inches, and stealth is, I think, -1 to hit at range. So really, really good stuff there. Sovereign Coronal, this one's not really for them necessarily, but you just become as though you're leading a unit, even though you're not in the unit, as long as you're within 6 inches. Okay. And Sempiternal Weave. I hate the name of that because it's so hard to pronounce. Necron's model only, the bear has the Feel No Pain 4-up ability. So let's go through different leaders that really make them shine. We'll go through them real quick. Imhotep, we're not going to talk about him really because he is just good in the fact that he gives CPs. Got it? Cool. That's it. He's not really of great benefit directly to the Necron Warriors, other than obviously being a character that can help lead them. I actually used Orkan the Diviner with a proxy just to try it out, and I was shocked how good he was, because Orkan the Diviner, he is an epic hero, but he's actually a Cryptek, and Crypteks are interesting because they say this down here in the leader section. They're going to be attached to Immortals, Lichguard, and Necron Warriors, and you can attach this model to the above units even if a Royal Warden or Noble model has already been attached to it. If you do, and that bodyguard unit is destroyed, the leader units attached to it become separate units with their original starting strengths. Okay, so basically, Orkan can go on top of something already having a Royal Warden or Noble in it. Orkan can show up as well. And Orkan is bonkers. He has his reanimation protocols. He's a leader. His Staff of Tomorrow itself is really, really good. We're not going to go into all the details of every weapon and all that stuff, but Master Chronomancer, while this model's leading a unit, models in a unit have a 4-up invuln save. So he can give Necron Warriors a 4-up invuln save. That's silly. Very silly. And ironically, this is actually super helpful for them too. The stars are right once per battle. At the start of the fight phase, this model can use this ability. If it does, till the end of the phase, triple the attacks and strength characteristics of this model's Staff of Tomorrow. So 6 attacks, and every successful wound roll made for this model's attack scores a critical wound. So it goes to 6 attacks at 12 strength, and they're all critical wounds, with devastating wounds on top. So it all becomes mortals. Yuck. Devastating. And that actually helps the warriors because it makes them more survivable even in melee, because if they charge into something, which you might actually want to do with Necron Warriors now, they can actually hit really hard and actually get some stuff off the board before everything goes down. We don't need to talk about Ankrir. He doesn't go with them. Vargard Oberyn, we're just going to say he is for Lichguard. That's all I'm going to say. Like, you could put him in there, but really he's not for Warriors. Same with Nemesis Zandrik. We'll just say that. All right, they could be used, and we will highlight that because they would get the fights first with Vargard, but really you want these guys in with your Lichguard. Illuminor Xeris can't go with them necessarily, but he's a while this model is within 3 inches, his Illuminor of other friendly Necrons units, the model has lone operative ability, so he gets safe from things from 12 inches out. But his mechanical augmentation is where he's at. Well, friendly Necron's battle line, so battle line is Lichguard Immortals and Warriors, was within 6 inches of this model. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, improve the AP characteristic of that attack by 1, and each time an attack targets that unit, worsen the AP by 1. Really good. That's gonna keep him even safer. And so, really devastating stuff there. I haven't gotten him yet because his point cost in the game is very big. Nemesis Zandrik, the only thing I would say that could be really useful, counter tactics to increase their stratagem cost by 1. That could really be helpful for the Warriors, but also Transient Madness. Again, this guy's really for Lichguard, but the fact that you could give their melees, it's weapons. So it could be all of them, actually. The only thing is they already have lethal hits, but if they get devastating wounds or sustained hits, really strong there too. So I would say these guys are for Lichguard, but they could still help, right? Trust in the Infinite, he's just not very good. Royal Warden, he's interesting. He could have their ranged weapons have heavy and the assault abilities. That's a thing. He can make them not battle shocked either. Pretty cool. I'd say of your options, he's not bad by any means, because the assault, just having that built in, is pretty cool. Can't go with them. Cannot go with them either. We've got quite a few that can't, and then others that can. Catacomb Command Barge, within 6 inches of the model, add 1 to the OC characteristics of models. That unit doesn't really make them more survivable, but the Resurrection Orb can be happening from him within 6 inches. They can, at the end of your opponent's command phase, activate the reanimation protocols as well. You'll see that quite a few times with like the Overlord, and so here he is. The Resurrection Orb is again. He himself is a little safer, which doesn't really help his group, but though my will be done, you can use a stratagem for 0 CP, even if already targeting a different unit with that stratagem in this phase, even if you've already done that. He makes them just better by the fact that he can get them a free stratagem, 0 CP stratagem, on top of other things. Like other stratagems you could also use, but that just makes them more survivable because then they have reanimations as well. Technomancer, I thought he was an auto-include, and then I went with Orc the Diviner. And there's a reason why. Because Technomancer has rights of reanimation, while this model's leading unit, models in that unit have the Feel No Pain 5-up ability. Well, that's really, really good, but Orc can give you a 4-up invuln, and there's a way to get Feel No Pains anyway. And then Technomancer, at the end of your movement phase, you can select one friendly Necron's model within 3 inches of the bearer. That model regains up to D3 lost wounds, which actually isn't useful on Warriors because they have to be a model that's already damaged. And Necron Warriors only have 1 wound, so they're never going to be damaged to be healed. Yeah, so kind of a weird thing there. I did not think he would be the one that I just go bizarre. Not really helpful to them, the Psychomancer, even though he's there. So Chronomancer, while this model is leading a unit, each time an attack targets the unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. It makes them more survivable because they're harder to hit. Cool. And Chronometron, after they shoot, as long as he himself has shot, they're not within engagement range, the group can move 5 inches. So he can actually be more survivable in that they couldn't be potentially charged. Kind of cool. Plasmancer, an unmodified hit roll of 5 up scores a critical hit now for them. So 5s and 6s. That's a pretty big thing because it could make them more survivable in that they could get rid of stuff sooner. So if they Veil of Darkness over and hit stuff, it's interesting because it's like offense, but it's also a defense in a way as well. And Living Lightning is his own little ability as well. So there's a few other characters that really make the Necron Warriors shine because now we're down into here, and I would say the other things to take note of are the Canoptic Reanimator. Friendly Necrons units within 12 inches of this model. Each time that unit's reanimation protocols activate, that unit reanimates an additional D3 wounds. So that's a lot of extra healing. The Hexmark Destroyer, bonkers because he can stay by stuff and he can fire Overwatch with a -2 AP, 6 shots, 2 up ballistic skill. Crazy stuff. And it hits on 2s up, period, for his thing. And each time an enemy unit gets shot at within 3 inches, he gets to shoot back. Really, really powerful stuff here, right? He's a defensive thing in that he's actually useful to them because he just protects them. But the real gem that I was shocked at is these little, the bucket heads, the Cryptothralls. And you look at their stats, they're nothing too shabby by any means. So it's only a 6-inch range for Scouring Eye. They're just here, 2 wounds. But then they go core, they have Feel No Pain 4 up. Well, that's interesting because they give a Cryptek in the unit a Feel No Pain 4 up as well. And they can, in melee, when they get destroyed, they can actually potentially fight even after death. Crazy good stuff. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They have a Feel No Pain 4 up. You can resurrect them because they become part of a unit, the Cryptek retinue. So they actually can join into a unit that a Cryptek like Orican, like Chronomancer, like Technomancer, and they become, I've got a 4-up invuln save, and if I fail that, I have a 4-up Feel No Pain. That's a lot of rolling, and the first thing you resurrect after you go to reanimations is these guys. You take them first, so you have to use them as the target for the damage, but make them come back and just keep going. Your Necron Warriors become so survivable, it's just not even funny anymore. Because they just sit there and go, yeah, you can hit us, but we're not going anywhere. And that's kind of impressive. It really is. It's insane to think. The last thing just to note is the Ghost Ark as well, the Repair Barge. Once per phase, just after an enemy unit finishes making its attacks, if 1 or more friendly Necron Warriors units within 3 inches of this model lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks, this model can use this ability. If it does, select one of those Necron Warrior units. That unit's reanimation protocols activate. The same Necron Warriors unit cannot be selected for this ability more than once per phase. So just after they make their attacks, and you could 0 CP with an Overlord as well to get the reanimation protocols to go. And if you have a reanimator or that as well, it's just silly. I think the last combo as well right here is the Monolith, the Eternity Gate. You can actually bring them back to it and summon them over. We'll talk a little bit more about the Monolith in my battle report. Yeah. So I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerdom. Let me know, what do you think of the Necron Warriors in 10th edition? I think they are just actually really fantastic. They don't necessarily do as much damage, but they're not going to leave the table. And that's a good thing to see, because that means we have a presence on the board and we can hold objectives, and people just keep going, why won't you die? And the answer is, we are Necrons, and we are the immovable object being hit by sometimes the unstoppable force and just going, that's okay. I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerdom. Take care.